to Clyde.
Hey guys, welcome to the Ghost Conference. I know that we've had a long wait because of COVID. It's good to be together again. Is everybody awake today? That's good. You know what is most amazing is that we live in fascinating times. Who would have thought that 30 years ago, people would be going on ghost hunts, people would be doing investigations into haunted houses, they would have EVP and ITC. I've been at this now since 1995. I remember when I was known as Crazy Clyde Lewis. Now I'm Pop Culture Clyde Lewis. Because that's what it is. It's all in the pop culture. It's pop sci. It's pop paranormal. It's all there. And I'll tell you, it's amazing because God has given us a moment to observe the spectacle of new frontiers and new innovations. Perhaps at long last we can see with our own eyes, without indifference, the abominable falsehoods that are being programmed into us, ones that are being exposed and then they're replaced with uncomfortable truths. Many of us have struggled to get those truths out there. I know that a lot of people who are here, you're the ones that are going into those dark areas. You're the ones getting the EVPs. You're the ones getting all that information, and people look at you like, come on. Come on. You know, but you say to the skeptic, I want you to go to a ghost hunt with me, and they'll run away. They won't go with you. You say, well, I'll give you a paranormal experience. You just got to go with me. I'll be able to point it out to you. You'll be able to see it. No, they don't want to. So I say this. I think that what we need to do as ghost hunters, as people who are, into the paranormal and the occult, we need to adapt to new information, to the uncomfortable anomalies. I think it's an imperative for today's troubled, outrageous times. Not everything is black and white. Not everything is going to the light. I always tell people when you go on a ghost hunt, I beware of those who say, go to the light. It's like me telling you to go to the bathroom and you don't have to. Go to the bathroom. I don't have to. Well, go anyway. I don't have to. Go to the light. Well, they don't have to either. They have something to tell you if you want to listen. Something they want to show you if you want to listen. I know that many of us like to stick to certain types of habits when we go out on ghost hunts. A lot of us have our political biases because we want to believe that those who are in charge have our best interests at heart. Beyond the political, there's always the esoteric nature of life, which is something that I'm more into than the political. I think more people who investigate the spiritual, the paranormal, they find themselves feeling a little bit more free. Why? Because they have a knowledge. They're intuitive. They understand the human consciousness. Many of you that are here understand the human consciousness, or you think you do. That's why you have these feelings of having one foot in one dimension and one foot in another dimension. That's what you are when you go on these ghost hunts. That's what you are when you go on these excursions, have seances, read tarot cards, and of course play with the Ouija board if you got guts. But anyway, there has been something that goes beyond the matrix that we have unwittingly constructed. I remember it was, I think, Robert Anton Wilson that said that we've made our own little matrix. We've constructed little matrix. Every once in a while, though, we feel so safe and secure, but then something gets in. Something pounds into the matrix and we go, what's that? And then there are people that run away, or there are people that stop, take a breath and realize that this is something fascinating. It breaks against the reality that you're used to. There's something that goes beyond that, though. It's something unexplained. One of the determinants in the matrix is the proposed idea of something that has been called quantum entanglement. Now, Einstein had a definition for quantum entanglement. He called it spooky actions at a distance. Why? He didn't want to get near it. Because I believe that quantum entanglement was just another way of saying peering into the other dimensions, peering into the other side. And he didn't like doing that. I mean, he had his EMC squared, he has his ideas, but getting into the other side, that's something that Edison wanted to do. That's something that a lot of other inventors wanted to do. But you're never told that in the mainstream. Tesla wanted to do it. Edison wanted to do it. Einstein, no. He wanted to back up. So when you look at quantum entanglement and the patterns that surface within the chaotic soup of consciousness, it is becoming more and more evident that quantum coherence and quantum superposition rears its head, and we are left with meaningful metaphors within pattern observations. From there, something in the mind clicks, and we realize that at times there really isn't anything new under the sun, or we reach out and wonder if timeliness or timelines are overlapping, and inspiration is eternal. As we know, quantum entanglement, or the quantum mechanical phenomenon in which the quantum state or two or more objects should be described in an interrelation with each other, even if we see these instances spaced apart, we always tend to see the overlap, the interloping. It's almost as if we have dimensions so close to us and they roil together and overlap, which would give an explanation as to why sometimes we see ghosts. One affects the other. This whole idea of the dimensions, one affects the other. This dimension affects that dimension, affects the other dimensions, and so on, so on, so on, so on. So the quantum entanglement phenomenon is also viewed in relation to such notions as quantum coherence and quantum superposition. Now, what quantum superposition is amazing. It's the idea that you can be in two places at once. And did you know that even the living can haunt the living? People have out-of-body experiences all the time, and they go to places and they visit them, and you don't hear about those stories. You hear about the ghost haunting, but you don't hear about live people haunting each other, but it happens. Somebody you see in a crowd, you go, wait a minute, I thought I saw you. No, I wasn't there. Well, I thought you were there. It's amazing. I sometimes find myself talking in circles when it comes to this, because that's exactly what it is. You're going in this cyclical nature with regard to the paranormal, with regard to all of it. You know, Charles Fort, I don't know how many of you read Fortean Times or know anything about Charles Fort. Charles Fort was quoted as saying, if there is underlying oneness of all things, it doesn't matter where we begin, whether it's the stars or laws of supply and demand, frogs, Napoleon Bonaparte. One measures the circle beginning anywhere. Quantum entanglement may serve only as an instrument assuring correlation of certain physical qualities. We're all connected. We're all sharing an experience right now, but we all have different interpretations of that experience. Some people look at me and say, look how big this guy is. Some are saying, you know, what's going on with his hair? Some are saying, I think this guy's smart. Some are saying, I think this guy's dumb. It's all a different experience, but we're all having it together. So I've said before that synchronicity is not rare. Feeling the coincidence, feeling the spirit, feeling whatever it is that's prompting you. Synchronicity is not a rare phenomenon, and it can happen in everyday life. It can go beyond emotional situations such as death, illness, accidents. How many times have you been in an accident in your car and everything slows down? It's part of synchronicity. How many people know what a Mandela effect is? The crowd recall is kind of faulty. It's all part of that synchronicity. It's all part of that dimensional quantum entanglement. Pulling back, pulling in, pulling back, expanding. So it may not be a permanent phenomenon. That's why we don't see ghosts all the time, okay? But certainly it's not rare, because we've got TV shows that deal with it. We've got people here today that talk about it. Carl Jung and his archetype explanations may be the reasons why the unconscious triggers that give us deja vu, or the Mandela effect, defective recall, time synchronicity, and in some cases precognition. Quantum entanglement may also be a great explanation for encounters with ghosts or discarnate spirits. Perhaps these entities are nothing but dimensional interlopers, guardians of the threshold, psychopomps. You ever heard of these terms before? Psychopomps are what meet you to take you to the other side. Charon, the river Styx, he's a psychopomp. Some people say that when they die, they have loved ones come to them and take them to the other side. Those are psychopomps. Some people say that psychopomps can be birds or animals, familiars. So this all deals, in my opinion, with the new idea of quantum entanglement. Consciousness can be picked up with our newfound interest in all things electromagnetic. Quantum physics deals with the electromagnetic. Ghost hunting deals with the electromagnetic. Why do you have electromagnetic gadgets? So you find a disturbance in the force, electromagnetic disturbance. Well, if that's what it's about, then spirits have an electromagnetic signature, which means that you can measure them on a quantum scale. You can reduce them down to tachyon, and you'll be able to figure out what you're dealing with. And maybe they are tachyon. Maybe that's why the little orbs happen, because of tachyon. That's a quantum physicist terminology. Tachyon. So this is the idea of the quantum physics applying to hauntings, or what I call quantum hauntum. It may be a quantum miracle that we experience, and it remains unexplained unless we apply quantum theory to the mysteries that we try and ascertain as to what's going on. Because when you look at contemporary psychology, there's no name for these experiences, really. I mean, we call them, for lack of a better word, paranormal, possession, demon visitation, whatever. I mean, many can see this as something I like to call a quantum quickening that basically can allow these experiences into our reality outside the classical physics model. Talk to a person who's involved with quantum physics, he'll tell you that quantum physics can prove ghosts and also disprove ghosts. Just depends on who you talk to. Quantum physics is that fun, especially when you're dealing with time. Time is like a pretzel. It'll twist and turn and leave us with our mouths open at the quantum entanglements and the synchronicities we deal with all the time when it comes to coming upon a dead loved one or someone that is a ghost that means something to us. Gives us hope in trying to solve what hauntings truly are. Not to dismiss them, but to try to look into them in a more quantum scale. The prevailing thought of a lot of non-religious individuals is that bodies are just machines that malfunction and eventually shut down. The functions of the body slowly shut off and the body is dead. But this, according to these non-religious people, is end, done, over, nothing after that. Lights go out, you're worm food. Okay? There's no afterlife, no point of no return. That's what the non-religious tell you. No afterlife, nothing. But as most psychics and ghost hunters will attest to, consciousness lives beyond the body. Thinking there's no afterlife can be unsettling, and if it's true, it's kind of unfair, don't you think? I mean, what's the point? You're dead longer than you're living. Must be pretty damn good, right? Or else, what's the point? It's like I always tell people, if I die, I'm going to ask God to give me Ouija board duty because I want to scare the hell out of all the teenagers that play with the damn Ouija board. That's what I want to do. I think we all ought to ask for Ouija board duty, don't you think? Can you imagine all the crap we could cause? I think so. It is hard to imagine we as humans have the potential to reach a high level of consciousness only to have it end here with nothing to look forward to. What a waste. What a waste. You know, I've always wondered about what perceptions people have of life after death. You know, I suppose that there are many people who call themselves Christians, Buddhists, or Muslims, Jews. I mean, I've never seen death or the life after death as destination zero. Because, I mean, I don't know what's worse, dying and having it all be for nothing, or dying and then going to heaven and just sitting there and saying, okay, I'm going to play a harp in my little terry cloth robe, and I'm going to be rejoicing at this guy who looks like Barry Gibb. I don't think that's something I want to do with the rest of my eternity. That's why I say Ouija board duty. It'd be a lot more fun. But I'm just saying that I don't think there's a destination zero with the afterlife. I don't think there's a heaven or a hell or a purgatory, because that would eliminate, in my opinion, the idea of ghosts. It's a dimensional thing. It's a dimensional thing. It's hard to play by the rules when you have plenty of rules that tell you that what you're doing is necromancy or some other god-awful thing that they warned you about in Sunday school. I just find that a place where there's no pain, no pleasure, no suffering, no challenges, I think that's pretty boring. Life is great. I mean, I've come close to dying at least 4 times in my life. Cancer 3 times, embolisms where I had a 2% chance of death, or 2% chance of survival. I made it. Now if I can just lose weight, that's what I need to do now. But imagining being just content for an entire eternity, not hanging around people, not haunting houses, not doing any of that stuff, that'd be pretty boring. I think that it would be unfair, it would be lonely, it would be a heaven that would be hell, and I would much rather be in a position to learn more about what it takes to be human that is given the privilege of reliving this adventure on earth all over again. I kind of think about our town. I don't know if you've ever seen that. Where in our town they say, the living just don't understand. You don't understand until you die. You don't understand until you have this afterlife you're dealing with. And then, how can the imagination of an afterlife be so cold and devoid of imagination and adventure? We're dead longer than we're living, and I would hope that the experience afterward would be fair and full of more life with all the wonderful experiences we all share in this dimension. In my experience as a paranormal investigator, a reporter of the paranormal and the parapolitical, I've had many experiences with so-called ghosts, and it seems that they're trying to communicate with us if we only hear them, like their voices are carried on the wind. They aren't physical voices since they have no physical bodies to speak. However, their intelligence is carried electromagnetically, and it seems to be bent and shaped through the use of electronics that have aided in the investigation. That's EVP and ITC. I want to explain that while many people use it as proof of life after death, it may not mean that anything beyond life exists at all. It is merely an anomaly that can be explored and documented with quantum physics. Now, I've seen ghosts, and I've documented my experiences. Thanks to my radio show, I was able to have plenty of witnesses to this phenomena, and it's quite startling to hear the voices, and it's difficult to have direct conversations with an anomaly. I was attacked by the ghost of the Zodiac Killer in San Francisco. Believe me, I haven't gone on many ghost hunts since then, but it was a scary experience for me. I felt like I was about to die. And why? Because the ghost hunters weren't playing by the rules. They were taunting the ghost, and the ghost found the weakest person in the room, and that just happened to be me because I just got out of the hospital. So you need to play by the rules, because there are rules to this, but they're rules that deal, in my opinion, with the laws of physics. Because the known universe is both frugal and precise. It appears to use basic structures in multiple applications in order to create itself. Scientists are now interested in the structures of life and how it all applies on a quantum level, and how consciousness has become the obstacle that breeds uncertainty, especially when science is faced with the question of just what happens to consciousness after death. We may not know exactly what consciousness is. In fact, when you want to go home tonight, look up something called panpsychism, something that science has dismissed, but now they believe it exists. Why? They want to find the consciousness in all things, because they have an interest in taking that consciousness and downloading it to an avatar, downloading it to a program, downloading it to a computer, That's going to be hard to do, but it's something they want to do because they do believe in putting the ghost in the machine. And they look at us as a platform, and every one of us are a machine with a ghost in it. But the idea is to take that ghost and move it to another machine. That's the transhuman version of life after death. And why? Because they're applying quantum physics to the ghost. There was a British physicist. His name was Sir Roger Penrose. And he believes that human consciousness, or a ghost, is just a packet of information stored at a quantum or subatomic level. He claims to have found evidence that this information, which is stored in microtubules within the human cells, leaves the body after a person dies. As I said, it's like tachyon. Penrose has argued that when a person dies temporarily, this quantum information is released into the universe only to return to the body's cells if the host is brought back to life. This is a out-of-body near-death experience. He argues, though, that this explains why people can have near-death experiences, and believes that this quantum information amounts to a soul leaving a human body. Now, if the patient dies, it's possible that this quantum information can exist outside the body, perhaps indefinitely. In 2010, one of the most respected scientists in the world, Robert Lanza, published a book titled Biocentrism: How Life and Consciousness Are the Keys to Understanding the True Nature of the Universe. An expert in regenerative medicine and the scientific director of the advanced cell technology company, Lanza is also very interested in quantum mechanics and astrophysics, an interest that led him on a path to developing his theory of biocentrism, which is the theory that life and consciousness are fundamental in understanding the nature of our reality, and that consciousness comes prior to the creation of the material universe. You are spirit before you're material, and there you're spirit again when you leave the body. Your consciousness is a packet of information. You're like a television. You're like a radio that's transmitting that consciousness to everyone. When you die, or when the radio breaks down, the consciousness moves on to another radio or to another source. That's the quantum explanation for ghosts, the quantum explanation for life after death. It's not as frilly like the Hallmark card version, but it's still something to think about, right? Something that's very interesting. So, Lanza says this. He says, our consciousness does not die with us, but rather moves on. And this suggests that consciousness is not a product of the brain. It is something else entirely, and modern science is only beginning to understand what that might be. Lanza's theory implies that if the body generates consciousness, then consciousness dies when the body dies. But if the body receives consciousness in the same way that a cable box receives satellite signals, then of course consciousness does not end at death. So, it's intriguing to me that our souls can be, or are, according to Lanza, quantum packets of information that are infinite, and then when it attaches to our biological host, it animates it. All the power in the soul makes the body do what it does. Kind of like, you know, remember the story in the Bible where the demons wanted to be cast into pigs? You know why? Because they didn't have bodies. They wanted to feel what it was like to live in a body because they were all demons. Possessions, you know? It's like anything they could do to animate the body. It's because quantum physics and the quantum self is what propels us. So when the body or the host dies, the packet of quantum data still exists like a TV or radio signal. If we have the right equipment or even another biological avatar component, that quantum packet or data can be resurrected in a new body in a new form. Or, if the quantum packet exists, we can take a tape recorder into a haunted house and hear it speak to us. Because the packet of consciousness is still there. It hasn't left. It has been there indefinitely. You can use this to explain why ghosts exist to all of your friends that don't believe you. There are other people that think that there's a reason why we see ghosts. This would explain ghost activity because if we remove all of the paranormal and supernatural aspects of ghostly encounters, we can surmise that all of it's quantum data. The quantum data is inside all of us, and that's why we're animated, that's why who we are. Now, who organizes that quantum data? That's up for religious clerics to decide. Testimonials from prominent physics researchers from institutions such as Cambridge University, Princeton University, and the Max Planck Institute for Physics in Munich claim that quantum mechanics predicts some version of life after death. They assert that a person may possess a body-soul duality that is an extension of the wave-particle duality of subatomic particles. Wave-particle duality is a fundamental concept of quantum mechanics, and it proposes that elementary particles such as photons and electrons possess the properties of both particles and waves. These physicists claim that they can possibly extend this theory to the soul-body dichotomy. If there is a quantum code for all things living and dead, then there is most definitely an existence after death. Now, if we all just have a quantum, if we look at the quantum packet data as the scientists and physicists suggest, then we're only similar to a radio or TV signal that needs to be received in order to be appreciated. So if we weren't the data, you wouldn't be able to pick up any ghosts in your ghost hunts. You wouldn't be able to see hauntings. You wouldn't be able to see the visions of ghosts and apparitions because they would already go somewhere else. They don't go directly to heaven or directly to hell. They remain indefinitely among us until they can find another avatar to occupy. We have walk-ins, we have possessions, we have all of those things because the quantum data that exists can happen and enter into bodies of mediums and others, right? I mean, if you believe the theory of Lanza, it's the way it is. Now, a lot of us who are into the paranormal are awaiting alien disclosure. We want to know if the aliens exist. Well, here's something. This would be a whole new disclosure if they told you that there is life after death and they have the quantum mechanics to prove it. All we need is science to go on the record and say, hey, guess what, guys? There's no life after death. But I think the reason why they won't tell people is because people would kill themselves to get a fresh start. But you don't know for sure until the lights go out, or if they go out, or they go back on again somewhere else. On a subatomic level, consciousness moves on to another plane or another dimension. And it's been announced that a scientist has found irrefutable evidence that life after death, or that after death the human spirit goes somewhere, he's just not sure where. Like I said, we leave that up to the religious clerics to tell us whether we go to heaven or hell or whatever. But this is a scientific theory, or if this is a big scientific discovery, then there would be undeniable proof that basically, I think it would silence any and all dogmatic religious conversation on the matter. In fact, this discovery would vindicate ghost hunters and paranormal researchers. Religions have interpreted in many ways, but the truth is more inconvenient. It is immobilizing if you think that it's a quantum experience. We are living quantum experiences. Quantum physics explains miracles. It's a big deal now. Physical death happens, but death of consciousness is a different story. Consciousness does not die. Memories remain, and the data is among us now. We just have to be intuitive enough to find it and to see it and to seek it out. And that's what many of you do because you have an interest in ghosts. You have an interest in finding the truth. You have an interest of collecting voice, collecting maybe an apparition on film, an orb here and there. Back to the tachyon story, back to the idea. We know the body eventually is going to die, and that is terrifying. Non-existence bothers me. The older I get, the more I realize every day is a gift. But when the body dies, we all think it's the end of the body. We think it's lights out for the host. But if you believe that the body generates consciousness, then the consciousness dies when the body dies. But if you believe there's consciousness that is basically animating you, then you know that data packet is going to leave you upon the body deteriorating. And that's what we do. We deteriorate. The moment we're born, we're dying. It's called age. The moment we're born, we feel blight, we feel cancer, we feel pain and suffering. Some of us die early, some of us die later. But if the body receives consciousness in the same way that a radio receives radio frequency and it turns it into music or delivers my radio show or something else, and of course consciousness does not end the death or anything physical. And even when you're living, your consciousness is also influential. You've ever been in a room where somebody walks in and their presence is so great, you're like going, they left behind something, they touched you, they inspired you. That's consciousness traveling. That's the data packet traveling to your data packet, and you respond to it. That's a quantum miracle. Because my electromagnetic pulses that I send out, my views, the way I see things, you're listening to me right now, either it's inspiring you or you think I'm out of my mind. But that doesn't mean that I'm not leaving an impression. Again, everybody's here having one experience and an individual experience at the same time. It's superposition. Being able to be in two places at once mentally, two places at once physically. In fact, consciousness exists outside the body in the constraints of time and space. It is able to be anywhere in the human body, outside the human body. In other words, it is non-local in the same sense that quantum objects are non-local. Professor Lanza also believes that multiple universes can exist simultaneously. In one universe, the body can be dead, and in another, it continues to exist, absorbing consciousness which migrated into this universe. That's intuition. Maybe another conscious self of yours in another dimension is giving you inspiration for what you need to do with your life. Because your other consciousness, or the outside data packet that you have in another universe, cares about you enough to give you that still small voice of recognition. Some people call it the Holy Ghost, some people call it the light of Christ. It could be your very own intuition speaking to you from another dimension, if you believe in the quantum way of doing things. Physicists and astrophysicists tend to agree with the existence of parallel worlds, and they are now suggesting the possibility of multiple universes. Keep in mind that this is not about religion. It's about science seizing religion and finding proof of what simply is called mythological or unknowable. Quantum mechanics does not rule out the possibility of an afterlife or basically an afterlife universe or an afterlife dimension. It doesn't rule it out, but that includes a multiverse dimension. It includes a multidimensional universe. It includes the survival of brain function after death, which you can call quantum immortality. Nikola Tesla said it best. He said, "The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in one decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence." So, for lack of a better word, souls are out there somewhere, both unborn souls and souls that have left our dimension are waiting the moment to move on elsewhere in the multiverse. I was always told by my grandmother that when you start feeling as though you're failing and falling apart, you should always think to yourself that there are people on the other side that are rooting for your success, and there are people that have never been born that are out there rooting for your success. And knowing what we know about quantum mechanics, that could be true. You could have relatives that you don't even know looking out for you. You could have children that you haven't even seen yet, or grandchildren that you haven't seen yet that are rooting for your success, that want you to be happy. So there is an abundance of places or other universes where our souls can migrate after death. There can also be a duality of data, where you can exist in multiple universes, triggering deja vu, Mandela effects, impaired recollection. You experience something different in every timeline, You've got signals that you're getting that make you feel as though you're in a glitch or a schism. How many people have heard of the glitch in the matrix? It's exactly what that is. Superposition, again, is what it is. There have been stories of people who are alive that have been known to haunt the living, meaning that a doppelganger of consciousness can actually dwell interdimensionally with the living. In this world, there could be a carbon copy of yourself making different decisions and seeing places that somehow later manifest themselves in your dreams. For thousands of years, people have wondered about the meaning of dreams. Why do some people dream about future events? Why are some dreams full of hidden meaning? Why are some dreams precognitive? Could it be that perhaps a different dimension has an experience that is hidden in your quantum packet? Think about that for a moment. Your quantum packet isn't just for this dimension, it's for several dimensions. It's for different lives, previous lives, maybe lives to come. Why? Consciousness is infinite. The data packet is there. You're only transmitting what you're getting. Some of our dreams can have glimpses of events taking place in an afterlife or reality or a parallel universe, but for the moment, we are told that we have 4 dimensions that we should be concerned with, and that would be depth and height and width and time. And beyond that, we are forced to try and understand the supernatural by applying the natural with a bit of uncertainty. Now, I have found the whole study of quantum mechanics to be fun, mind-bending, and I'm not a quantum physicist, but I know about the terminologies and some of the ideas to make me fluent enough to discuss it. The laws of a quantum world are so bizarre that if you follow them to their logical conclusions, you get some very strange stuff going on, strange results. That's why quantum physics is so full of thought experiments. Has anybody ever heard of Schrodinger's cat? Yeah? Okay, so the idea is if you put a cat in a box with a vial of poison in it, it has a 50-50 chance of killing the cat. So if it's in the box, you don't know if it's alive or dead. So we have to assume that the cat is both alive and dead. It's in a superposition of states. So you don't know if it's alive or dead until you open the box. You don't know if ghosts exist until you decide to go into a place and try to find them. They're around you all the time. You call out to them, maybe you'll get a surprise visit. If you feel that your house is haunted, you may get a surprise by turning on a tape recorder one night and just talking and then playing it back, and you'll hear the voices come to you. It's like Schrodinger's cat. Are they alive? Are they dead? Are they here? Are they from somewhere else? Are they in heaven? Are they in hell? We don't know unless we try and experiment with it. Then you know for sure. So, using the superposition theory, a body that is physically died can be living in superposition, so it's both alive and dead at the same time. We say that the physical body is dead in the ground, cremated or whatever, but then we say, but they're living and they're looking down on us. I like to think that my mother and father are looking down on me saying, he's a success. Thank God he's a success. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're off doing something else. But it's always nice to think that even though they're in the ground, they can be up there looking down at me. Now, how can we have those two thoughts at once? Because of superposition. They've never defined it until now. Now it's here. It's called superposition. They can be in the ground dead, but they can be up there. They can be anywhere. They can be sitting right there in the front row watching me right now. Your dead relatives can be sitting next to you right now, and you don't even know it because of superposition. So, when you compare what I'm saying to classical science and Newtonian physics, the theories proposed to explain quantum physics sound insane. I admit it. It sounds crazy. But even when Erwin Schrodinger called his cat experiment ridiculous, he knew, though, that usually the only way we can prove something is to observe it and demonstrate it. Another reason why we go into ghost investigations, because we want to have people observe and absorb the phenomena. We want to be able to show people there's more to our lives than just the matter that's being animated by consciousness. The laws that govern the world we see every day do not hold true to what I call the quantum level. Everything only appears to be what it is, or so we think, or so we should think. Sometimes things don't appear as they seem, and yet people will speak with such certainty about what they call reality. Reality is a word that we should always use in quotes. Everybody's reality is different from my reality. My truth is different than your truth. My cognitive bias says that your cognitive bias is full of crap. We get that all the time. This is the plague that we're in the 21st century. No truth. Just everybody thinks they have the truth, and it's all emotionally bound with baggage or some other experience. But we live in a paradigm, a new paradigm. The word paradigm refers to the conceptual framework, belief system, and overall perspective through which we see and interpret the world. The dictionary defines paradigm as a pattern, example, or model. This word derives from the Greek paradigma, composed of para meaning alongside or beside or beyond, and digma meaning example or showing. So paradigm means beside or beyond the reality we live. A new paradigm, beyond the reality we live. Everyone is having an experience today that is beyond the reality that they're used to some 20, 30, maybe even 40 years ago. You have to admit this. For those of us that have been around that long, we see it happening and we don't know what to do because the world is so upside down. It's as if we've fallen into another dimension, and we probably have. We're probably in some weird multiverse dimension, and maybe it's time we do call upon the ghosts to tell us what is going on, because they have a quantum view of everything. And we should too. We should open our minds to the idea of quantum physics. You see, our paradigm determines what we are able to see. It determines how we think. It determines what we do. Now, we don't question its accuracy because, well, we're usually unaware of its existence. It's called the Troxler Effect. We tune out a lot of things. It's like right now, those of us who are wearing socks don't think about the fact that we're wearing socks right now. But they're on, right? Your socks are on. But you don't think about them being on. You just tune out the fact that they're on. That's the Troxler Effect. You tune out certain things. I think that there is a huge Troxler Effect going on with ghosts. We are so used to being in this soup of reality that we have just not taken the time to observe the spirits in this world, spirits in the material world. We do not focus on them, therefore we tune them out, and it takes a medium, an investigator, or someone to point out that that is an orb, that is an apparition. That feeling you're feeling, that is the feeling of Grandpa coming back to tell you that there's money hidden in the mattress. Okay? I saw y'all smile when I said that. I'm not Uri Geller, so don't go home in your mattress and look for the money, because I am not sure. Anyway. But you understand what I'm saying here? So, we don't question the accuracy of reality because we're in the middle of it. You're in the middle of reality, but you don't question your reality. And that's why we ask ourselves if there is an ultimate truth. It seems like there isn't anymore. What's truth? I'm telling you the truth. Well, finding out the truth changes all the time. Different ideas flash into people's heads. I mean, what? Louis Pasteur had to prove that demons don't dance on food. So he created the pasteurized process. They used to call it, what do they call it? They called it, what do they call it? It was something where there's a reason why we pray over our food is because there used to be an idea that demons would dance on your food and that if you prayed on it, you wouldn't get sick. But Louis Pasteur said there are no demons on the food. It's because we need to make sure that certain conditions are met so we don't have bacteria that's forming on the food. I guess bacteria can be seen as demonic in a way, because if it dances all over your food and makes you sick, I mean, you'll be spitting green pea soup just like Linda Blair in no time. But the ideas change. And so the truth is, demons don't dance on our food. Or maybe they do. Who knows? But I'm just saying that we know with science that things are different now. Trying to reflect on our own worldview is like trying to study the color blue while wearing blue-colored glasses. If we have a cognitive bias, then we're going to believe what we already know. It's kind of like I've always said about preachers sometimes. When you're looking at those preachers on TV and when you're looking at those preachers that speak from the pulpit, people pay them so they can be told what they already know. But they're sinners and their life is hell and that they need to make peace with themselves, make peace with God. Oh, I knew that already. I'm just paying to hear that. I already know that. Most of the time, that's why you do what you do. You basically want to hear what you already know. But if someone challenges what you already know, you either turn them off or you're saying, hey, now there's a good point. There's something to think about. And I hope that's what I'm doing today for you guys, is I'm trying to give you another perspective. We cannot distance ourselves enough to see how much our perception is skewed. We simply assume that we see things the way they really are. Our paradigms are usually all we know, and they only become perceptible to us when we encounter ones that are different from our own. My life is better than that life. Better me than him. My political views are better than your political views. I'm this way and you're not that way, and I have some very ugly things I can do to you because you don't agree with me. That's where we are right now in the world. When we should be thinking about how equal we all are in a quantum way. You know, death is the great equalizer. Okay? 6 feet of comfort is all that you get in the end. Unless you believe in the quantum eternity or the quantum immortality. Then you can say, yay, I can go off and do something else. I can go off and I can go look like John Cena if I want to. Those are the choices you make. All of the things you're doing are choices. You've made choices. Your packet decided to inhabit the body you're in. And you knew the deal you were making when they sold you that vehicle. Wheels are a little bad, maybe a little dent here and there, but damn it, I can make it work. I mean, self-worth is how you perceive it. Your soul, your quantum soul, is equal with everybody else's soul in here. That's the equality. That's the way we should see ourselves, as souls. That's why they say you should love people, love them for who they are, love them for their character, not by their appearance or color of their skin or, you know, whatever backgrounds they may have. You need to love them because in the end, we're all equal data. We are all data packets that are animating these machines. Organic machines. Everybody's talking about the technocratic singularity. I want an organic singularity. I want to be able to see a human brain achieve the mastery of a machine before a machine does it for us. Because more and more we're finding ourselves letting the machines do the work and we're not doing jack. We're not doing jack. How many times do you let your cell phone tell you how to get here? When you don't use directions on your own, you drive off a cliff if the GPS tells you to. We can't keep doing this. We can't keep allowing I don't have my cell phone. I'm going to freak out in a minute. We can't. I'm freaking out. I was going to use my cell phone as an example. But you can't let this be a part of your body because eventually they'll make it part of your body. You'll no longer have fingers. You'll just have this little black thing on the end of your hand. Okay, you know. But see, we're only as good as the data that we put into ourselves, and the knowledge we gain, and the things we look, and the things we choose, and the things we like to play with, and the people we love, and the people we choose to love, and the attitudes we have. Our core assumptions about the universe are embedded in the metaphors we use, the mythologies we cling to, and the religious philosophies that help us figure it out in a simplified manner. Religion and mythologies and all those things are there for the simple explanation. I call it the Hallmark explanation. To get beyond the Hallmark card explanation, you got to think quantum, you got to think science, you got to think something beyond this material matter, which would be the packets that keep you alive, the packets that let you love, the packets that let you feel pleasure and pain, and all those things the body feels. You wanted it and you chose it. And then once you leave it, you can choose it all over again. And that's the beauty of quantum immortality. See, the world is viewed as a collection of inanimate objects that interact in predictable mechanistic ways on mathematical laws developed principally by people like Isaac Newton. That's where you get Newtonian physics, by the way, classical physics. And you have Francis Bacon, you've got others who introduced concepts in the 17th century. From there, we had Tesla, we had Edison, we had all these guys. And, you know, Edison was a firm believer in the afterlife. In fact, he made, if you go to the GE site, you'll see that he made a communicator for the dead. He said if there was enough power, we could actually communicate. So did Tesla. If we had enough power, we could communicate with the dead. Why? Because the packets of quantum consciousness are electromagnetic. They dance across the electromagnetic spectrum. Modernity established this discontinuity, this discontinued relationship between mind and matter, and the subjective objective, ultimately between science and religion. Over centuries of struggle between a rising tide of empiricists who battled against the entrenched theology, there was uneasy truce between science and religion. Science claimed the domain of the physical world, religion claimed the domain of the spiritual world, psychologists handle the mental part of the world, and parapsychologists study what's beyond this world. And soon quantum physicists will do the same. For the last 300 years, modern society has actually relied primarily on scientific discovery to tell us about the nature of reality. On the one hand, we have all benefited enormously from the technologies that science has made possible. On the other hand, many may have felt uneasy when science cannot account for or explain our most significant personal experiences. Many find a deepening mismatch between what they know from their own experience and what they're being told from science. Science tells you to do this, 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 and this, and people go, I'll follow the science because I gave up on my own intuition, I gave up on my own discernment. They're infantilizing you. You're a grown-up. You should know what's best for you. And for some reason, we let go of our responsibility, and we're allowing scientism to infantilize us, to create victims. Victimhood is a cottage industry in this country right now. And this is the thing that is most aggravating to me, is because we really need to rely on each other, rely on that spiritual nature, love each other, and experiences need to be shared, such as out-of-body experiences, near-death events, telepathy, clairvoyance, remote viewing, and the powerful healing effects from the laying on of hands, praying. Nothing wrong with prayer. Prayer's just, one of those anomalies, right? You're moving the universe to your benefit. But it challenges the dominant scientific explanations for how the world works. You can expect a miracle if you just know how to ask. You can expect a miracle if you just know that it's possible through quantum mechanics. We are witnessing a remarkable convergence of discoveries on the frontiers of science that appear to support the age-old wisdom from perennial spiritual traditions. We are learning, for example, from quantum physics about the way certain aspects of reality transcend our usual understanding of time and space, and we are learning from neurosciences and consciousness studies, remarkable connections between mind and body. We are in the new paradigm. Make no mistake. We are now getting ready to leap into a new way of thinking and opening ourselves to a bold reality. Time will allow us to move forward. Dimensional thought processes are they're infectious. One of you is influencing this you in this world. Another one of you is influencing someone else in this world. All of the dimensions are coming together, and this is what we see as the quickening of souls. This is the time for us to listen to that voice. This is the time for us to move forward and to understand that, yes, there is life after death. It's just that we need to explain it in a more scientific way and have that faith that we will eventually come to the true nature of why we see ghosts, why we have paranormal experiences, and why we are all here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Clyde.
Question and answer?
You got about 3 or 4 minutes. Go ahead.
Oh, anyone? Anyone? Bueller? Yeah.
It's pretty, all right. Okay, we photograph, we take videos of orbs, and we see through videos. We can't see them with our own eyes. So what's to say we can't develop a glass, a pair of glasses that give you a millisecond time to see that?
You're right, and it's because, and I had a friend of mine that had theories about that. It's because we live in a pixelized world, and now electronics can pick up on the pixels, and this is why we're able to see ghosts. This is why the military is able to see tic-tac UFOs. It's because of new equipment. And so yes, if they come up with glasses, they can be able to snap those things, but there are people that do see orbs without having to take a camera photo. So once again, it goes back to the idea, are we looking at tachyon? Are we looking at something that is, I mean, how many little particles does it take to make a huge apparition? We're seeing just a little part of it because somebody wants to get through, and it takes a lot of power and energy. You realize ghosts will not show up unless humans are there. Why? Because they borrow that energy off of you. When you're there out there with your camera, the batteries go dead because they're borrowing that energy so they can show up. That's why it's a lot easier for me to believe in a quantum immortality, because they're using electromagnetic energy to make themselves seen. And you're giving off electromagnetic energy yourself, so that's why they use people as a conduit to appear. Anything else? Is that it? All right, thank you all, and I have a table over there if you want to come by, and got shirts and all kinds of cool things, so thank you so much, and have a good time.